When we are quote-unquote simplifying a quantity, the word simplification has a very specific meaning. First, in order to simplify something, you need to rewrite it so that it's expressed using fewer symbols and fewer numbers, or perhaps smaller numbers, so that the expression at the end is objectively simpler and nicer than the one that you started with. But there's another requirement, and that is that the quantity that you get at the end of simplification has to be equal to what you started with. You can't just simplify something like 2 over 8 to something like 1 over 3, because 2 over 8 is not equal to 1 over 3. So this doesn't count as a simplification, even though the numbers are smaller. Now, when we're simplifying fractions that have variables in it, we have to be just as careful to make sure that the quantity that we have at the end of the problem is equal to the quantity that we have at the start of the problem. Which means that when we are simplifying, we are restricted to a very small number of valid maneuvers, valid moves that we know will keep the end product equal to what we started with. One of the only valid maneuvers for simplifying fractions is to cancel out a common factor of the numerator and the denominator of that fraction, which means that we need to get really good at knowing whether a quantity is a factor of the numerator, whether a quantity is a factor of the denominator, because only when the quantity is a factor of both numerator and denominator can it be canceled. So here is a rule of thumb that might help you. Suppose that you are thinking about canceling something that appears in a rational expression. If this thing that you're trying to cancel is next to a plus or minus sign in the fraction, or if it is multiplied by something that's next to a plus or minus sign, then what is the takeaway? Then this thing is not a factor. It's not a common factor, and it cannot be canceled. So when you are checking to see whether you can cancel something out of a fraction, you are checking to see whether or not that thing is in contact with a plus sign or a minus sign. Now let's do some drilling. Let's do several examples. For example, we have the fraction x plus 5 all over x minus 3. The question is, can we cancel the x's? Is x a common factor of this fraction which can be canceled out? And the answer is no, and the answer is perhaps even definitely no. There are two problems here. The first problem is that the x in the numerator is in contact with a plus sign. And the x in the denominator, to make matters even worse, is also in contact with a minus sign. Now, any one of these by themselves would be enough to say that we cannot cancel the x's. Having two of them just makes matters even worse. Let's try another example. Here we have 2x divided by x plus 7. The question is, can we cancel the x's? And the answer here is still no. And the problem is the plus sign in the denominator, which is in contact with that x that we're trying to cancel out. So because this plus sign is in contact with an x, we cannot cancel out these x's in this fraction. Now let's try it again. We have 7 times x, 3 times x plus 5. Can we cancel the x's? Again, no. And the problem is again the plus sign here in the denominator. Even though the x in the bottom is being multiplied by 3, that product is in contact with a plus sign in the fraction. And because of that, x is not a factor of the denominator. So we cannot cancel the x's in this example either. And finally, what about in this example? In the numerator, we have the quantity x plus 9, subtract the quantity x plus 3. In the denominator, we have x plus 9 times x plus 3. So could we cancel, for example, the x plus 9's? Because I do see an x plus 9 in both the numerator and the denominator. But the answer is again no. And can you spot the problem this time? The problem is the minus sign in the numerator. The minus sign in the numerator is in contact with the quantity x plus 9, which means that x plus 9 cannot be cancelled out. It's over. The same thing is true for the x plus 3. And the answer is still no, and the problem is still that minus sign, which is in contact with the quantity x plus 3. Can we cancel any of the x's? And the answer is definitely still no, because all of the x's in this problem are in contact with a plus sign. So we can't cancel out any x's either. We cannot cancel out any 9's. We cannot cancel out any 3's. So there is not much that we can do in terms of canceling common factors in this fraction. So that's something really important to be on the lookout for. Before you erase something from a fraction, check and make sure that that thing is not in contact with any plus signs or minus signs. Because if you cancel something that is in contact with a plus or minus, you will definitely get the wrong answer.